All right. Good morning, if anyone is watching. I am Chandan. Uh, I've been investing since 2020. Uh, I work in a bank, so banking and NBFC and financial sector in general is where my interest and my job lies. So I enjoy talking about it, and I've been trying to learn more and more about how banks function and how to play a bank through equity investing. So, what I want to talk about is how to understand a bank from a basic, and finally, how to look at a bank for the purpose of investing. So, let's get started. I think I just hope I'm audible. Yeah, so I have made it in Q&A format so that it gets easy to grab the things. So the first question is, what is the primary job of banks? I think most of us know about that. What is the primary job of the bank and how they make money? They just receive deposits from the depositors and they lend it on higher rates and they just keep the difference to them and they spend the margin in employee expenses and various other things and rest of it goes to their profit, right? So there are many sources where a bank or NBFC can raise money from. The primary for a bank is deposits from government because the amount is huge and it is also cheap. So banks are always interested to get government deposit or bulk deposit, as they say. And the second important thing is deposit from the customers and also from corporates and big companies. Obviously, that makes most of their deposit base. Also, they can raise it from market, but yes, for a public sector or private sector, big banks, the main three sources are deposit from government and deposit from big corporates, and finally the retail deposits like what we have in our bank, 50 or 100 or 5,000 rupees. The main question is then arises, why would one deposit their money with the bank? The reason being because it is safe. It is not safe to keep a large sum of money. The large may be debatable for bank, but it's depends on the customer. For one customer, a 10,000 rupees might be large. So why would you keep it in home in their own risk? So they deposit it with their bank. Also, they get interest in return for that. So that's the one reason. And the second reason now arising after internet banking and UPI is you can easily transfer your money from your account to some other account, which might be cumbersome in other cases. Like if you want to purchase some jewelry, it is better to give a check or transfer via UPI rather than going with the cash, which might be unsafe. The next question is, isn't every bank is almost the same? And what would one a depositor prefer? The bank giving higher interest, obviously. So it's a commodity business at the end of the day. If I'm planning to buy a car, I don't care about which bank is providing me finance. The only thing I care about is which bank has lower rate of interest. If if I have a bank account of 20 years with one bank and another bank is providing me car loan at 50 paise lower rate, I won't even think once before changing my bank. So it's a commodity business at the end of the day. But at the same time, I'm telling you the exact opposite. It's not a commodity business, because if you have a lifetime deposit, a lifetime saving in your bank, you won't change your bank even if some new bank is providing you 1% extra interest rate, because of the trust factor. You cannot risk your family saving in a bank just for 1% interest. And we have seen numerous example banks going bankrupt, lots of depositors losing their lifetime saving. So yes, it's also not a commodity thing, even if it's a commodity thing. And suppose you have a car loan with one bank, so you would prefer home loan from the same bank also, even if their rates is 50% higher than. So once a bank acquire a customer, cross the second selling or the third selling to various other products becomes easier for a bank, and that's where brand comes to play. And bigger banks obviously have upper hand here, because they have been doing business for a long time. They have bigger base, so it's obviously becomes easier to keep your money there, or you might find many branches of them in your locality, so it becomes too easier to operate, right? The next big thing for a bank, because it gets deposit from people and lends it further. So what if you can raise capital in smaller interest rate, so you can invariably pass it on to the customer who is taking loan at lower interest. If you raise capital at lower interest, you will further disburse the capital at lower interest, so you can easily overtake your competition. So that's where the CASA thing comes in. The CASA goes for current account and savings account. The bank does not have to pay money for a current account, as you already know, you must be knowing. And so it's very cheap for a bank, which helps them get lower interest for the loan products where they earn income actually. And similarly, saving account has almost at most 3% interest rate in most of the bank. So, but there is a risk associated with it. You One person can easily close their or transfer their money from their account without any hurdle, unlike in fixed deposit or other things, where a person might think twice before using that money. So it's important in that way to have a larger base of customer. So even if there is a huge outflow, it can be managed with inflow from other customers. So this is the bank thing, but the NBFCs can take deposit. I mean CASA. They can NBFC can deposit FD, take FD or RD, but they can't do CASA. So how they lend then? So there are ways they raise fund. They can raise fund from their parent. They can raise fund from the market. At the same time, they can raise equity capital from existing investor like you and me, which help them grow their business, right? So the primary thing is, what is the cost of the fund that a financial is raising. The cost would be the average of cost of deposit and the cost of funds they one might have risen from other sources. So that is the primary thing. Then you disburse the loan and you keep the margin. So cost of fund is important if you are looking at a bank or financial, because how cheaply they are getting the money will eventually determine their health. Because obviously a good and big and branded and reputed company would raise capital at low rate, and which in turn be used at lower rate. That's why promoter holding keep reducing in banks and financial, because they have to raise capital multiple times, either by promoter or from other sources, and equity dilution happens multiple times here. That's why in financial the promoter holding does not matter, right? So if a bank is raising capital from market or taking deposits, and eventually he's making profit and giving dividend. But the raw material for a bank is money only. So it does not make sense for a financial to give dividend regularly, right? Because that they are raw material, and the depositors might be getting the dividend, but the dividend could be used in a better way if one looks at it. So I don't think a financial institution giving regular dividends is a good idea in any way, especially loss making. When if you are making a loss and giving dividend, it's not a great sign. It would be a red mark for me before investing. So as I already told you, the raw material for a financial institute it is money, and how cheaply they raise it, which is determined by the cost of funds. And how cheaply they raise the capital depends on multiple factors like I mentioned: asset quality, book value, and finally ALM is important. Let me explain about them. Asset quality is the quality of loan one company is giving. How it is important is if you are giving a loan of 10 rupees and it's turned bad, the borrower is not repaying the money, you are making loss here. So the quality of advance a bank has made is not good, we can say, right? So market would treat it differently if the financial institute wants to raise capital after that. So it will definitely get difficult, or they have to pay a higher interest rate to raise capital because they are not lending it in a correct way. The market would seem like it. The book value is important metric for any financial institution because that is their base where they lend from. The big book value actually says it is the addition of the equity capital the bank has or the financial institution has plus any reserve they have made over the years from their profit. So that is the base where they lend it from. So it becomes very important to have a good book for a bank. एंड एसेट लाइबिलिटी मैनेजमेंट ये है कि एएलएम का मतलब है तो एसेट लाइबिलिटी मैनेजमेंट ये इम्पोर्टेंट है क्योंकि ये लिक्विडिटी मेजर करता है। आपके लिए एसेट होगा आप लोन जो दिए हैं, पर आपके लिए लायबिलिटी है कि आप जो कैपिटल रेज किए हैं मार्केट से या फिर जो डिपॉजिटर से लिए हैं। और अगर आप शॉर्ट टर्म कैपिटल रेज किए हैं, छोटे टाइम के लिए मार्केट से उधार लिए हैं और आप 30 साल का होम लोन दे रहे हैं, तो जो आप रेज किए हैं वो तो कभी भी आके आपको पैसा मांग सकता है। बट आपका इंटरेस्ट तो आपका कैपिटल तो होम लोन में स्टक है। सो इट विल गेट डिफिकल्ट टू रिकवर द मनी एंड द बैंक विल फेस लिक्विडिटी क्रंच। उसके पास है कैपिटल, दो होम लोन अच्छा चल रहा है, इंटरेस्ट आ रहा है, लेकिन इवेंचुअली वो पूरा पैसा तो 30 साल के बाद ही आएगा। So it becomes important for a bank to manage their asset and liability with correct combination so that the net inflow and outflow makes sense eventually, right? जैसे मैंने पहले बताया था कि बैंक को मल्टीपल टाइम कैपिटल रेज करना पड़ता है। सो इट बिकम्स इम्पोर्टेंट कि व्हेन दे रेज कैपिटल एंड हाउ दे रेज कैपिटल। आई हैव टेकन टू एग्जांपल्स। सपोज कि एक बैंक का बुक वैल्यू 100 रुपया है, right? And they have 100 numbers of shares. So total book value becomes 10,000, right? So अगर उसने बैंक ने बुक वैल्यू के ऊपर अगर कैपिटल रेज किया, सपोज कि अभी बुक 200 रुपये बुक वैल्यू हिसाब से 5,000 रुपया रेज किया क्योंकि उसको फर्दर लैंडिंग करना है, उसके पास कैपिटल बेस में कैपिटल नहीं है, तो उसने अगर ₹200 में 25 ठो शेयर इशू किया, तभी ₹5,000 वो उठा पाएगा, राइट? So, as you can see, after raising the capital, the total book value becomes 15,000 and number of share becomes 125. And we divide, if we divide 15,000 by 125, the resultant value is 120. So the depositor who have the investor or the investor who have invested before the capital raise gets 20% premium for the book value. So it's become profitable for an investor who have invested before equity raising. In the reverse way, suppose the company is raising 5,000 rupees at 50 price to book. So they have to issue 100 shares in order to get 5,000 rupees. So the after the raise, the total book value becomes 15,000 like in previous case, but the number of shares increases from 100 to 200. So the resultant book value becomes 75. So the existing investors are losing here, and that's a very dangerous thing. If the company or financial you are invested in is raising capital below book value, right? So the as we talked about, the primary source of making money for a bank is through NIM, the net interest margin they make from the difference of raising capital and deploying it. How else they can make money? कि और भी सोर्सेस है, जैसे कि जहाँ से वो पैसा कमा सकते हैं। जैसे आपको कुछ पता ही होगा, लाइक अगर आपने लोन लिया होगा तो लोन में प्रोसेसिंग फीस रहता है, लेट पेमेंट पेनल्टी रहता है। आपका अकाउंट में अगर मिनिमम बैलेंस नहीं होगा तो उसका चार्ज लगता है। आपका चेक चेक बाउंस हो गया तो चार्ज लगता है। आपको वो कुछ बेच भी सकते हैं, लाइक मोस्ट ऑफ द बैंक्स दिस bank assurance, they sell insurance through the bank. So that becomes fee based income from them, and it becomes easier to get profit in that way because you don't have to deploy any additional manpower. बैंक में जो स्टाफ है या फाइनेंस जो वही ही सब सेलिंग कर देंगे। आपको ऐसे एक्स्ट्रा पैसा डिप्लॉय करना नहीं है, ना इसके लिए आपको पैसा रेज करना है, बट इट्स ये डायरेक्ट आपका प्रॉफिट में चला जाएगा, राइट? लेकिन एक चीज आपको इंश्योर करना होगा कि वो अगर प्रॉफिट हो रहा है तो कोई चीज सेल करके ना हो। सपोज ए बैंक हैज ए लैंड ऑफ 2 एकड़, राइट? एंड इफ इट्स making money by selling the asset, by selling the land, so it must not be good, like selling their office, and it's not a good sign even if they are making profit out of it, right? So as you know, there are different kind of loans available in a bank, but they can be broadly divided into retail and corporate loan. Both have their advantages and disadvantages. अगर बड़ा लोन हो, कॉर्पोरेट को अगर देंगे हम 10,000 करोड़ रुपया लोन देंगे, तो एक ही साथ में हमारा टारगेट पूरा हो सकता है, ग्रोथ पूरा हो सकता है, लेकिन रिस्क है। अगर 10,000 करोड़ डूब गया तो बैंक का बुक वैल्यू में बहुत बड़ा डिटोरेशन हो जाएगा। और अगर हम बड़े कॉर्पोरेट को लोन दे रहे हैं और वो रेपुटेड कॉर्पोरेट है, तो ऑब्वियसली उसके पीछे और 5 बैंक भी भागेंगे, तो आवर रेट ऑफ इंटरेस्ट शुड बी कॉम्पिटिटिव इनफ। सो you will make money in absolute term by lending to corporate, but in percentage term you will be making less because there is a corporate behind it. Similarly, existing exactly opposite for a retail loan, क्योंकि क्वांटम ऑफ लोन ज़्यादा है, कम है, और नंबर ऑफ लोन ज़्यादा है, तो अगर एक या दो लोन खराब भी हो जाए किसी भी रीजन से, तो बैंक को और या फाइनेंशियल इंस्टीट्यूशन को उतना बड़ा डेंट नहीं लगेगा, क्योंकि द साइज ऑफ लोन इज एक्सट्रीमली स्मॉल। बट क्या होता है, अगर आपको छोटा लोन करना है तो मैन पावर भी उतना ज़्यादा चाहिए होगा कंपेयर टू ए कॉर्पोरेट लोन। लाइक इफ आप कर रहे हैं 10,000 करोड़ का एक तो कॉर्पोरेट लोन, सो सपोज कि 20 आदमी चाहिए होगा, लेकिन आप 10,000 करोड़ का अगर एक 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 लाख का लोन करेंगे तो मनी पावर या ऑफिसेस या स्टाफ्स बहुत ही ज़्यादा चाहिए होगा। लेकिन यहाँ क्या हो सकता है, आप ज़्यादा रेट ऑफ इंटरेस्ट भी चार्ज कर सकते हैं, बिकॉज यू आर टेकिंग बिगर रिस्क बाय गिविंग स्मॉलर क्वांटम ऑफ लोन, राइट? So it is a image that I have created to make you understand better. Like little for retail lending, smaller loan sizes requires immense manpower, high operating expenses, and the benefits are you will take minimal risk, you will get fee-based income, and you can charge a bit higher interest rate. Similarly, in corporate lending, the quantum of loan is big, so you'll get bigger profit in absolute term, but there are competition in interest rate and capital at risk if the loan turns bad, if repayment stop due to any reason. There is another term called priority sector lending. You can search about it, but in short, RBI mandates banks to give certain percent of that overall loan to specific type of things. Like currently, it's mandatory to give some of your loan towards agriculture sector, towards MSMEs, towards housing, etc. अगर बैंक वो नहीं करती तो आरबीआई उस पर पेनल्टी लगा सकती है। लेकिन या एक तो सर्टिफिकेट आता है विच इज कॉल्ड एज प्रायोरिटी सेक्टर लैंडिंग सर्टिफिकेट्स, तो उसको खरीदना होता है आपको, उसको बैलेंस करने के लिए, जिसमें कि रेट ऑफ इंटरेस्ट बहुत ही कम होता है। So this is the classification of banks and NBFCs. So banks can be divided into private and PSU and small finance bank and payment banks. Similarly, there are various kind of NBFC. Universal NBFC, they do all kind of things. Vehicle financer mainly focuses on financing a new or second-hand vehicle. Gold financer focuses on lending out of gold as collateral, and MSME finances caters to the MSME people, and microfinancers, they do the rural finance like the self-help groups or joint liability groups. The housing finance give loan to housing sector, and there are different other types of financer as well. The example of a retail NBFC is Bajaj Finance, Tata Capital, and you can read the same. Chola and Shriram are into vehicle finance. Muthoot Manappuram are into gold finance. You grow Mass SBFC, they are into MSME finance. There are like similar players in microfinance and housing finance. And there are few special kind of financiers like Emerald Finance. You can read about it. They give loans against your receivables as a salaried person. मगर आप अगर आपको 30 तारीख को सैलरी आना है, जो कि अगले साल में आएगा, अगले मंथ में आएगा, लेकिन आपको रिक्वायरमेंट है, तो आपका नेक्स्ट पे स्लिप का वो 50 या 60% लोन दे सकते हैं अभी। उससे बदले वो इंटरेस्ट नहीं लगते, एक फी बेस्ड इनकम वो उससे प्रोसेसिंग फीस के हिसाब से लेते हैं। And you can read about it SG FinServ also. And what they do is, they give supply chain finance. They finance to the suppliers, right? So you know about SBI cards, I guess. They are into credit cards, only listed credit card player, and IRFC finance to the railway, Indian Railway. Similarly, Northern Arcs finances to other MFI players or other financiers, as well as they lend directly. So these are the main difference between banks and NBFC. The source of fund, as I have already told you, a bank can raise fund from depositors in the way of current account, saving account, CASA. But the NBFCs can't. They have to raise capital from the market, or they can get money from another bank, and similarly. But at the same time, the reach and OPEX are intertwined. A bank cannot go to a remote village because the cost is will be very high from them compared to their income, because they have to get a bigger office and they have to deploy staffs with higher salary, so it does not become profitable for them. But a smaller NBFC can go into rural parts, tier 3 tier 4 town, and as their operating expense, like I have already told you, the size of the office, the rent of the office, and the cost of the employees is lower, so they can penetrate into deeper areas, obviously. And collection is very important in case of NBFCs because they generally cater to a riskier audience. So one of the important matrices to track is how they are collecting the loan, and also the quantum of loan varies uh, between banks and NBFC. If we take an example of home loan, a bank might be giving a home loan at a average ticket size of 20 to 25 lakhs, but most of the housing finance NBFC would be giving below that, because giving a smaller loan for a bank does not make sense because it won't add as many profit compared to its cost. So that's where the housing finance NBFCs come to play. They can give loans of smaller ticket size like 2 lakh or 5 lakhs. And the quality of customer also differs, as you can already imagine. The top tier customers must be coming to the bank only, and le- le- less educated or similar people must be coming to NBFCs because banks cannot cater to everyone, right? ऑल्सो टेक्नोलॉजी भी डिफरेंट होगा ऑब्वियसली, क्योंकि बैंक के पास ज़्यादा पैसा है तो वो लेटेस्ट और अपग्रेडेड टेक्नोलॉजी ले सकता है, लेकिन एनबीएफसी उस बारे में उस मामले में पीछे ही होंगे। और टेन्योर ऑफ लोन, बैंक ज़्यादा टेन्योर का लोन दे सकता है क्योंकि बैंक ज़्यादा कैपिटल रेज कर सकता है, तो उसको मैनेज करना आसान रहता है। सो द टेन्योर ऑफ लोन कैन बी बिगर फॉर एनबीएफसी बैंक, अनलाइक एन एनबीएफसी, क्योंकि एनबीएफसी एक रिस्कियर बिजनेस में है, क्योंकि द स्टाटा इट इज सपोर्टिंग आर सपोज टू बी रिस्कियर। सो द टेन्योर छोटा करना पड़ता है, जैसे कि गोल्ड लोन में अगर आप एक बैंक से गोल्ड लोन लेंगे तो टेन्योर जनरली 1 ईयर का होता है, लेकिन आप अगर लोन लेंगे एक तो एनबीएफसी से, अगर एक गोल्ड फाइनेंसर से, तो टेन्योर बहुत छोटा होता है, जैसे कि 1 महीना, 1.5 महीना या फिर 3 महीना। सो दैट्स हाउ इज इट वेरीज। Also, the NBFCs provide a certain kind of loans, and banks provide almost on all kind of loans in almost all branches, right? So रेट ऑफ इंटरेस्ट भी डिफरेंट होगा, क्योंकि बैंक आसानी से और कम रेट से पैसा रेज करती है, लेकिन एनबीएफसी को ज़्यादा रेट में पैसा रेज करना पड़ता है, क्योंकि वो डायरेक्ट पब्लिक से पैसा नहीं उठा सकती। सो ऑब्वियसली उसका रेट, कॉस्ट ऑफ फंड अगर ज़्यादा हुआ तो उसको इवेंचुअली पास करना होगा कस्टमर के ऊपर, और कस्टमर को भी रेट ऑफ इंटरेस्ट ज़्यादा पड़ता है। इफ दैट इज द केस, तो आखिर लोग एनबीएफसी से लोन क्यों ही लेते हैं, और एनबीएफसी कैसे सर्वाइव और थ्राइव कर रहा है, इवन इफ उसका रेट, उनका रेट ऑफ इंटरेस्ट ज़्यादा है, 18% है, 20% है, कहीं कहीं पे 24 या 25% भी है, तो कैसे वो सर्वाइव कर रहे हैं, क्योंकि दे आर नॉट इन कंपटीशन विथ बैंक्स, दे आर कॉम्पिटिंग विथ इनफॉर्मल लेंडर्स। सपोज कि एक ठो किराना का दुकान है या कोई फ्रूट्स वेंडर है, तो वो तो बैंक से जाके बस 20,000 या 30,000 का लोन नहीं नहीं ले सकता। उसका पहले सोर्स था कि वो जो मनी लेंडर्स इनफॉर्मल थे, जैसे साहूकार या उनसे वगैरह से फंड उठाना, जो कि मंथली 2% या 4% या 5% चार्ज करते थे। तो दे आर कंपटीशन टू, द एनबीएफसी आर कंपटीशन टू द मनी लेंडर्स, नॉट द बैंक्स। सो एनबीएफसी क्या करेगा, वो जो 25 या 30% से पैसा उठा रहे थे, दे कैन नाउ गेट लोन एट 18 to 20%, राइट? and I have summarized it here. The cost of fund, the source of fund. I mean, for banks, it's cheap CASA and deposits. For NBFCs, they can raise it from banks, markets, or their parent. And reach and OPEX, you can also see the collection efficiency. You can see the NBFCs are especially aggressive in recovering the money compared to the banks because those are riskier loans inherently, right? Similarly, quantum and tenor for banks it's larger and longer compared to NBFC, which are shorter in size and shorter in tenure. The customer reach similarly varies, and the higher rate of interest is there in NBFCs, right? So I already have told you about priority sector lending, right? It's mandated by RBI to give certain percent of loan to certain type of people. That's a regulatory requirement, right? And if a bank cannot fulfill the criteria, the bank has to park the money with RBI via priority sector PLC PSLC certificate, which is of lower interest rate. So उससे ज़्यादा बढ़िया क्या है कि आप किसी भी एफसी को कोलैंड एनबीएफसी के साथ पार्टनरशिप करके आप वो प्रायोरिटी सेक्टर में लैंड कर सकते हैं। जैसे कि आपको भी फायदा होगा ज़्यादा, क्योंकि आपको पीएसएलसी में डिपॉजिट नहीं करना है, जिसका रिटर्न बहुत कम है। एंड वो रिस्क डायरेक्ट आपके नहीं आएगा, वो कंसर्न एनबीएफसी ही उसको टेक केयर करेगा, राइट? Some important term for a bank are interest income. It is the difference between interest earned and interest expended. सो टोटल इनकम्स क्या हो जाता है, जो इंटरेस्ट इनकम मिला प्लस अदर इनकम, जैसे फी बेस्ड इनकम के बारे में हम लोग बात किए, या फिर कमीशन बेस्ड इनकम। नेक्स्ट इंपोर्टेंट टर्म इज पीपीओपी, प्री प्रोविजनिंग ऑपरेटिंग प्रॉफिट। दिस इज द डिफरेंस बिटवीन टोटल इनकम माइनस माइनस ऑपरेटिंग एक्सपेंसेस। एक बैंक या एनबीएफसी के लिए सबसे बड़ा एक्सपेंसेस क्या है? रेंट है, इलेक्ट्रिसिटी बिल है, मैन पावर कॉस्ट है, यही सबसे बड़ा कॉस्ट है। सो अगर हम टोटल इनकम से ऑपरेटिंग एक्सपेंसेस को माइनस करते हैं, हमको पीपीओपी पता चलता है। उसके बाद अगर प्रॉफिट में आएंगे, प्रॉफिट आफ्टर टैक्स, तो पीपीओपी से हम प्रोविजन और टैक्सेस अगर माइनस कर देते हैं तो हम पैट में आते हैं। प्रोविजंस क्या होता है? अगर आपका एक ठो लोन खराब हुआ तो उसको उसके अगेंस्ट में आपको उसको प्रोवाइड करना पड़ता है कैपिटल। सो अगर क्वालिटी ऑफ लोन खराब हुआ, अगर लोन एनपीए में है, तो आपको ज़्यादा अमाउंट प्रोविजन करना पड़ेगा, क्योंकि एनपीए हो चुका और आपसे आपका कैपिटल रिस्क में है, और उससे टैक्सेस अगर माइनस करते हैं तो प्रॉफिट आता है। सम अदर इम्पोर्टेंट टर्म्स आर यील्ड। यील्ड क्या होता है? टोटल रिटर्न फ्रॉम ए लोन। और इसका फॉर्मूला भी मेंशन है, लाइक सपोज हर हर टाइप का लोन का वेटेड एवरेज हम लेंगे, और उससे बैंक का इंटरेस्ट परसेंटेज अगर 13% हुआ तो यील्ड हुआ 13%। और सपोज वो बैंक ने 5% में पैसा उठाया है, द कॉस्ट ऑफ फंड इज 5 रुपीज, तो स्प्रेड क्या होगा? 13% माइनस 5%, तो 8% का स्प्रेड बनाया बैंक ने। और नीम स्पेसिफिक होता है, स्प्रेड एक बिगर थिंग हुआ, नीम एक छोटा चीज है, कि इंटरेस्ट जो अर्न किया बैंक ने और इंटरेस्ट जो स्पेंड, उसको अगर हम टोटल एसेट्स एसेट बैंक का जो होता है, मतलब टोटल एडवांसेस जो बैंक ने दिया है, उससे अगर डिवाइड करेंगे तो हमको निम मिलता है। So that depends. The NIM depends, or the yield or spread depends on the type of loan they are giving, how riskier are the loans, and one has to track for multiple quarters to in order to understand the trend and where a bank is going from riskier to less riskier thing, or from more profitable to less profitable. हाउ इज द क्वालिटी ऑफ देयर लैंडिंग, आपको ये सब चीज ट्रैक करने से पता चल जाएगा. I have also mentioned special thing from housing finances companies. You can read about it. And one important thing is आपका बुक जो है वो फिक्स्ड है या फ्लोटिंग है. मतलब कि अगर एक बैंक लोन दे रहा है वो आपको फिक्स्ड रेट ऑफ इंटरेस्ट में दे सकता है, या फिर एक पर्टिकुलर नंबर जो कि आरबीआई से डिसाइडेड है वो उस नंबर से 30% ज़्यादा करके आपका आपसे वो इंटरेस्ट ले सकता है. राइट. जैसे कि रेपो रेट से जनरली नहीं होता, एमसीएलआर से होता है. अगर 50 पैसा ज़्यादा, सपोज वैसा कुछ एग्रीमेंट हुआ है कस्टमर के साथ, या फिर वो डायरेक्टली बोल सकता है कि वी आर चार्जिंग 9% रेट ऑफ इंटरेस्ट. सो अगर फ्लोटिंग होता है तो उससे भी फायदा या नुकसान है, और अगर फिक्स्ड होता है उससे भी फायदा या नुकसान है. अगर मार्केट में इंटरेस्ट रेट बढ़ते हैं, आरबीआई इंटरेस्ट रेट बढ़ाती है, तो फिक्स्ड रेट पे इंटरेस्ट, अगर फिक्स्ड रेट में लोन है तो उन पे प्रेशर पड़ता है, क्योंकि उनका कॉस्ट ऑफ फंड फंड राइज हो जाएगा, क्योंकि इंटरेस्ट रेट ज़्यादा है, उनको ज़्यादा रेट में कैपिटल रेज करना है. लेकिन यहाँ पे लोन तो फिक्स्ड इंटरेस्ट में ही है, तो दैट बिकम्स रिस्कियर एट सम पॉइंट. राइट. सिमिलरली अगर इंटरेस्ट रेट डाउनवर्ड कैटेगरी में है और रेट ऑफ इंटरेस्ट फिक्स्ड है तो उनको ज्यादा प्रॉफिट होता है. दे विल बी रेजिंग कैपिटल एट लोअर इंटरेस्ट रेट, एंड दे आर गेटिंग सिमिलर इंटरेस्ट रेट बिफोर द स्लो डाउन ऑफ द रेट ऑफ इंटरेस्ट. सो ये दो धारी तलवार है. अगर फिक्स्ड रेट ऑफ इंटरेस्ट है और अगर फ्लोटिंग रेट ऑफ इंटरेस्ट है तो ना आपको ज़्यादा फायदा होगा, ना आपका ज़्यादा नुकसान होगा. अगर इंटरेस्ट रेट राइज या फॉल हो, आपका मार्जिन फिक्स है. देयर आर इम्पोर्टेंट टर्म्स दैट आर इम्पोर्टेंट फॉर बुक वैल्यू. हमने बुक वैल्यू का बात किया, हमने प्रोविजन का बात किया. इवन दो आई हैव नॉट एक्सप्लेन इट प्रॉपरली, लेकिन ये सब टर्म समझने के बाद आपको बुक वैल्यू समझने में आसानी होगा. एंड वी विल ट्राई टू डू इट नेक्स्ट टाइम. Thank you if you are watching, and I hope I have justified your time, and you can ask any question that you have, and I will do it some other time, and I will take your questions or doubts, and we can eventually move further after that. Oh, thank you.